So let's build a new project. Maybe you already have your web application, so this is nothing new for you. We built an ASP.NET Web App. Web Application 4 is alright. And as you can see in Visual Studio 2015, you have a bunch of different templates you can choose from. In essence, it doesn't really matter which template you're using, because we want to build the Web.CF service and it works with any of them. So in our case, we can just use the old web forms. MVC would also work. Just choose the web forms, and we don't need any authentication, although this is a really nice feature out of the box of any of these templates, but we don't need it for now. So let's create our web app. Takes a while. Okay, and now we see all our data in the Solution Explorer, and we can even start the web application, and it already works. Alright. Okay, as you can see, the web app is there. We have different contents, and now we want to build our service. Okay, the first thing we are going to do is add a new folder. We call it service, and there we can add our service. Add new item, and now under web we will find all the way down here the WCF service. Service 1 is okay, it's just the default name. And now we see the two files are generated for us. The interface file. For now we have only one method called doWork, and the implementation is hidden under the actual service file, which is service1.svc. Double click and we get to the C# file, and hidden behind the svc file is the markup. There you have to change the service name if you change the service class name, for example. But otherwise it's not interesting for you. Okay, so the interface is here and the implementation file. Now what we need to do is we have to add a web configuration file to make this service RESTful. Because in this state now it's a ready-to-use SOAP WCF service. So we add a new item, which will be, come on, there we go, web configuration file. Web.config is okay. As you can see, it is quite empty, but I have prepared the whole web config, and I will explain in a minute what all this stuff means or what are the important parts. Of course, you don't have to worry, you get all the sources at the end of this course. For now, as you can see here, there are customizations for the REST service. We have a web HTTP binding, but we won't go deep into it because we just want to have our service real quick. So these are all settings, how many data you can send over the net. But the most important part for us now is the service name and the contract. So as you can see here, it's from another example, of course. There's web application 2.service.service1. This is a namespace and this is the class. And in our case we have web application 4, so we will change this. And you also have to change this when you have any other kind of name, and I assume you have another name. We'll save it, and now we also have to change, if you have another name, the markup which I told you a minute ago. Of course, in our case it's okay for now, but if you have another web application name, please change it there, if it hasn't already been done by Visual Studio. Okay, this is the web config for now, so this one is important. And now we have to change two other things. We have to add some attributes to our implementation class. The first one is, again, prepared. The ASP.NET or ASP.NET compatibility requirements. The requirements mode is set to allowed, and another attribute which is important for the definition of all the methods in our REST service is the web invoke stuff. We can add it here in the implementation file or in the interface. I like to do it in the interface, but it's completely up to you. Now the problem is we need some more references, 2 more to be exact. Visual Studio doesn't know them, so we will add these here by ourselves. Right click on references, add a reference, and under the framework we will see the system service model. Activation is the first one. This is for the ASP.NET compatibility requirement, and the other one is system service model web for the web invoke stuff. Okay, and now we have to add it, of course. System service model activation. Okay, and for the web invoke using system service model web. Okay, no red lines anymore. For now, the service is already done. We can check it by just calling the SVC file. So let's build our solution. Build started. And it's done, it's succeeded, and let's have a look. Okay, to get to the service file, we just add in the address bar our service folder, and then the service1 file, service1.svc, hit enter, and there it is. You have created a service. This is everything you need to do to create a RESTful WCF service, but you can't do anything for now with it. So what we need to do is we just change our doWork method to get something from the service. So the first thing I will do is, you want to get something, so let's return a string, change it in the interface and also in the implementation file. And we will return a string, hello REST WCF service. Okay, that's it. But now, for a short explanation, we have this web invoke stuff, and as you can see, there's a bunch of parameters. And in this series of tutorials for the REST WCF service, we will use 2 methods of the HTTP communication, which will be get and post. There's also put and delete, but these are not very important for now. Of course, you can send a delete, which will, as the name implies, delete any item from your service or your database, whatever you want to do with it. And put is often used to change something, but you can do everything with get and post. So in this scenario, for the first lesson, we will use the get method. The get method just gives you something from the service. So you're just asking for something without giving something to the service. The other method would be post, which means that you will send some information, some data, a parameter or a whole package of information to the service, and the service will do something with these information and then give you something back. But for this little test we will just use get. Okay, now the response format can be, as you can see here with IntelliSense, JSON or XML. Well, we're using a REST service because we don't want to have all the overhead with XML, so of course we're going to use JSON. Then the body style. There are 4 different options. Wrapped just means that the string in this case would be wrapped in a little package. It would look something like that, do work result, and then there would be the information you want to have. But when you put it to bare, you would just get the plain string without any wrapped package. Okay, and then the URI template, just the link how to call the method, the do work method in this case is do work. You can call it whatever you want to, but in my opinion it makes sense to call the URI the same as your method. Okay, that's it. Build it again. Succeeded. Again, we just call the web application. And now for the first test, we will just add the method do work, and it works. Hello REST WCF Service. Yeah, that's it. That's it for now for the first part of building your your REST WCF service in an ASP.NET application. In the next lessons we will remove all this bunch of text and we will build buttons into this HTML application and into this web application, and then we want to use real buttons like a real web application, because I'm sure you don't want to use the address bar, or your users don't want to use the address bar to get the information from the web service. So we will build some buttons. We will use JavaScript to react to these buttons, and of course we will use the post method to send information to the service which is doing anything with it, and we will build classes by ourselves, so custom data types, and I will show you how this stuff works. But that's it for now for the basics of the REST WCF service. Hope you liked it, and see you in the next lesson.